ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਹੁਕਮਨਾਮਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ today is on Ang 567 of Guru Granth Sahib Ji in WADAHANS ਰਾਗ by Shri Guru Amardas Ji। ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ। ਵਡਹੰਸ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਤੀਜਾ। ਛੰਤ। ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ। ਆਪਣੇ ਪੇਰ ਕੈ ਰੰਗ ਰਤੀ ਮੂਈਏ ਸੋਭਾਵੰਤੀ ਨਾਰੇ। ਸੱਚੈ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀ ਮੂਈਏ ਪੇਰ ਰਾਵੇ ਭਾਏ ਪਿਆਰੇ। ਆਪਣੇ ਪੇਰ ਕੈ ਰੰਗ ਰਤੀ ਮੂਈਏ ਸੋਭਾਵੰਤੀ ਨਾਰੇ। ਸੱਚੈ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀ ਮੂਈਏ ਪੇਰ ਰਾਵੇ ਭਾਏ ਪਿਆਰੇ। ਸੱਚੈ ਭਾਏ ਪਿਆਰੀ ਕੰਤ ਸਵਾਰੀ। ਹਰ ਹਰ ਸਿਓ ਨਿਹੋ ਰਚਾਇਆ। ਆਪ ਗਵਾਇਆ ਤਾ ਪੇਰ ਪਾਇਆ। ਗੁਰ ਕੈ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸਮਾਇਆ। ਸਾ ਧਨ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸੁਹਾਈ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਕਸਾਈ। ਅੰਤਰ ਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਪਿਆਰੀ। ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾ ਧਨ ਮੇਲ ਲਈ ਪੇਰ ਆਪੇ ਸਾਚੈ ਸਾਹੇ ਸਵਾਰੀ। ਨਿਰਗੁਣਵੰਤੜੀਏ ਪੇਰ ਦੇਖ ਹਦੂਰੇ ਰਾਮ। ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਜਿਨੀ ਰਾਵਿਆ ਮੂਈਏ ਪੇਰ ਰਵ ਰਹਿਆ ਭਰ ਪੂਰੇ ਰਾਮ। ਪੇਰ ਰਵ ਰਹਿਆ ਭਰ ਪੂਰੇ ਵੇਖ ਹਜੂਰੇ। ਜੁਗ ਜੁਗ ਏਕੋ ਜਾਤਾ ਧਨ ਬਾਲੀ ਭੋਲੀ। ਪੇਰ ਸਹਿਜ ਰਾਵੈ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਕਰਮ ਵਿਧਾਤਾ। ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਰਸ ਚਾਖਿਆ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸੁਭਾਖਿਆ। ਹਰ ਸਾਰ ਰਹੀ ਭਰ ਪੂਰੇ। ਨਾਨਕ ਕਾਮਣ ਸਾ ਪੇਰ ਭਾਵੈ ਸਬਦੇ ਰਹਿ ਹਦੂਰੇ। ਸੁਹਾਗਣੀ ਜਾਏ ਪੁੱਛੋ ਮੂਈਏ ਜਿਨੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋ ਆਪ ਗਵਾਇਆ। ਪੇਰ ਕਾ ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਪਾਇਓ ਮੂਈਏ ਜਿਨੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋ ਆਪ ਨਾ ਗਵਾਇਆ। ਜਿਨੀ ਆਪ ਗਵਾਇਆ ਤਿਨੀ ਪੇਰ ਪਾਇਆ। ਰੰਗ ਸਿਓ ਰਲਿਆ ਮਾਣੈ ਸਦਾ ਰੰਗ ਰਾਤੀ ਸਹਜੇ ਮਾਤੀ। ਅਨ ਦਿਨ ਨਾਮ ਵਖਾਣੈ ਕਾਮਣ ਵਡਭਾਗੀ ਅੰਤਰ ਲਿਵ ਲਾਗੀ। ਹਰ ਕਾ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਸੁਭਾਇਆ। ਨਾਨਕ ਕਾਮਣ ਸਹਜੇ ਰਾਤੀ ਜਿਨ ਸੱਚ ਸੀਗਾਰ ਬਣਾਇਆ। ਹਉਮੈ ਮਾਰ ਮੂਈਏ ਤੂੰ ਚੱਲ ਗੁਰ ਕੈ ਭਾਏ। ਹਰ ਵਰ ਰਾਵਹਿ ਸਦਾ ਮੂਈਏ ਨਿਜ ਘਰ ਵਾਸਾ ਪਾਏ। ਨਿਜ ਘਰ ਵਾਸਾ ਪਾਏ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਵਜਾਏ। ਸਦਾ ਸੁਹਾਗਣ ਨਾਰੀ ਪੇਰ ਰਲਿਆਲਾ ਜੋਬਨ ਬਾਲਾ। ਆਨ ਦਿਨ ਕੰਤ ਸਵਾਰੀ। ਹਰ ਵਰ ਸੁਹਾਗੋ ਮਸਤਕ ਭਾਗੋ। ਸੱਚੈ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸੁਹਾਏ। ਨਾਨਕ ਕਾਮਣ ਹਰ ਰੰਗ ਰਾਤੀ ਜਾ ਚੱਲੈ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਭਾਏ। ਹਰ ਵਰ ਸੁਹਾਗੋ ਮਸਤਕ ਭਾਗੋ। ਸੱਚੈ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸੁਹਾਏ। ਨਾਨਕ ਕਾਮਣ ਹਰ ਰੰਗ ਰਾਤੀ ਜਾ ਚੱਲੈ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਭਾਏ। Satguru Amardas Maharaj is blessing us today in Vadahans Rag. The Sirlekh, the title of the Shabad is Vadahans, which tells us the Rag is Vadahans. Mahalla Tija by Sri Guru Amardas Maharaj. And another word which is included in the Sirlekh and the title is Chant. Chant can mean poetry, but Dr. Gurcharan Singh in his Sri Guru Granth Sahib Kosh has said that Chant means that poem which is sung in praise of someone or something. And this chant is in praise of Akal Purkh Vaheguru Maharaj. Shri Guru Amardas Ji begins with the Mangalacharan, with the preliminary supplication, Ik Oankar. There is one eternal Akal Purkh Vaheguru, the creator, nourisher and destroyer of all, in whose will everything is happening. Sat, eternal, Gur, conscious, Prasad, bliss. What is the form of that Ikku Sat, Gur, Prasad. Also, we translate this to mean that Ikku is found through the Prasad, the grace of the eternal Guru. Now in this Shabad, which is split into 4 parts, Sache Padshah Ji Maharaj firstly gives the example of that being who is coloured in God's love. Then, after giving that example in the next 3 parts of the Shabad, Maharaj talks to someone who is walking on the path of God, but falters at times. This isn't talking to someone who isn't walking on that inner path of spirituality. Guruji gives an example, Guru Amar Das Ji, of someone who is completely imbued in love. Then Maharaji takes someone who is walking along the path and says, "O spiritual seeker, if you want to know how to reach the heights of spirituality, then look to that soul that I have described in the first part of the Shabad for inspiration." And Maharaji is taking this along the lines of brides. Maharaj is saying to one bride whose mind wavers, who is on the spiritual path but falls off many times, Maharaji is giving her the example of that bride who is always imbued in the love of her husband, and Maharaji is telling her to look to that bride, to that Gunavanti, to that Shobhavanti for inspiration. So you'll see the word Shobhavanti comes in the very first line of this Shabad. On one side there is a Shobhavanti, the one who is clothed in glory, and on the other side there is Nirgunavantariye, or we could say Ogunavanti, one who has Ogun, who has demerits. Maharaji begins the Shabad after the supplication, after the Mangalachan. Maharaji begins describing that soul bride who is coloured in the love of her husband. Apne pir kai rang rati muye. And one word which you'll find just before we begin looking into the Shabad line by line is muye, will come up again and again in this Shabad. Now muye, this is where translation gets tricky, and this is where there are certain words which cannot be conveyed. We can make them out, we can try and put them across, but some words, they carry and they evoke some emotions which they cannot do in translation. Which is why we should all endeavour to learn Gurmukhi, the Guru's language, in order to understand or at least enjoy those metaphors that come in Gurbani, those images which Satguruji paints with their divine words. So muye here, what does muye mean? Muye is a term of endearment. Now, just like we say dear or love in English, especially where I'm from in the UK. So it's a term of endearment used for a younger sibling, we could say, especially a daughter or a sister. And if you translate it, muye means marjani, one who will die. Now again, you see how in translation it loses that joyful playfulness which it has in the Gurmukhi. In the Gurmukhi, this is a known metaphor. This is a known term of endearment which is used for daughters in the family home. But we cannot translate that over because we do not have an example here in English. But despite that, we will try and convey it as much as we can. So that term of endearment, marjaniye, we would say in modern Punjabi, in Gurmukhi of that time, muye was the word which was used. Oh, one who will die. Now, Maharaji uses this term of endearment, and where this is a term of endearment, a term of love, a playfulness, Maharaj is also reminding us we are all muye, we are all walking on the path of death. So that image is so strong. On one side it is an image of motherly love, Guru Sahib Ji speaking to us like a mother. On the other side it is Guru Sahib Ji warning us. We are all muye. Maharaj Ji says, Apne pir ke rang rati muye. That dearly beloved, Maharaj is talking to that soul who is coloured in God's love. One who is rati, completely imbued in the rang, in the love of her pir, of her husband Lord, of Vaheguru. Sobha vantinare. Sobha means glory. Bhai Veer Singh Ji has also translated Sobha to mean chamak, shine, sparkle. You are sparkling, you are shining because you are imbued in God's love. O Nare, O soul bride. Sacha sabad mil rahi. You have merged into the sabad, into the words of Sacha, of the true Akal Purkh, into the Guru's words, the Shabad. Now what does that mean, you have merged into those words? Those words have become you and you have become those words. You are living those words. You are an embodiment of the Shabad. Whatever you do is coloured by the Guru's words. Muye, again this term of endearment, beloved, is used again. Pir rave pae pyare. You rave, you enjoy the love of your pir, of your husband. Pae pyare. Sache Pasha Ji Maharaj says that you are enjoying this love, this pae. Sacha pae pyari, kant savari, har har syon neho rachaya. Why is it that you are enjoying the pae, the pyar, the love of your husband Lord? Why is it that you have been savari, embellished, decorated by your kant, by your husband? Because you have neho rachaya. Now, neho rachaya means you have fallen in love with har har seyon, the name of God. That is how you have come to enjoy this love. That is how that you have been embellished and decorated. Naam, meditation on Naam decorates us. Meditation on Naam evokes that love of God inside us. Many people say, how do we do this? Immerse yourself in Naam. It will not only clean your inside, it will decorate you and it will implant the love of God within. Maharaj Ji says, Aap gavaya ta pir paya. When you gavaya, when you lost your sense of self, aap, ta pir paya, only then did you find your pir, your husband Lord Vaheguru. And we may ask, how can I lose this sense of self? Maharaj Ji says, Gur ka sabad samaya. When you merge into the Guru's Shabad, the Guru's words, when you meditate upon the Guru's mantra, you will lose your sense of I. We read in Bhai Gurdas Ji's works, Vaheguru Gur mantra hai japa ho main koi. By meditating on the Gur mantra of Vaheguru, you will lose your sense of I, your sense of ego. Sa tan sabad sohai. That tan, that soul bride is sohai, is decorated with the Shabad. The Shabad becomes the greatest decoration. Prem kasai. And what does the Shabad do? The Shabad brings that kasai. Here kasai means that attraction of love. The Shabad, when we start meditating upon it, it attracts us itself. Antar preet pyari. And that means that when the Shabad adorns someone, when the Shabad becomes someone's embellishment, when the Shabad pulls us in its love, it implants the preet, the love of our husband, Lord Vaheguru. And that love, it takes over everything else. It becomes pyari. Falling in love with Vaheguru's love. That is what happens. Nanak Satan MEHL lai pir ape. And in the end, Maharaji says, it was the pir, it was the husband Lord himself, ape, who MEHL lai, who united that soul bride Satan, Sacha Sahe Savari, the Sacha, the true king, has embellished her, has decorated her. And this is the realization which comes at the end of the spiritual journey. That it was you inside me calling out to you. I am nothing. This is a height of spirituality. This is a height of losing the self. Now, after putting this image in front of us, Maharaji now talks to those soul brides who are walking on the path but falter many times, waver many times. Maharaj says, Nirguna Vantadiye, using the Rada letter in Punjabi, that is used as a term of endearment as well. So when we say Balladi, or we say, in this case, Vantadi, or you see in Gurbani, Gur Sikhada, it is a term or is a letter which brings a lot more love to that. Maharaji here is lovingly addressing us. Nirguna Vantadiye, you do not have any virtues. You are Nirguna, without virtues. But Maharaj even then is lovingly addressing us. Pere dekh hadure ram. You must walk on the path of dekh, of seeing your husband, Lord. Hadure. Hadure means ever present. Now, when you say that to someone walking upon God's path, try to see Akal Purkh at all times. They will ask you, how do we do this? Are there any who have done this? Then Guruji says, Gurmukh jini ravya, those who through the Guru, ravya, enjoy the love of their husband, Lord, muye, O beloved one, pere rav rahya par pure ram. They realize that their husband is rav rahya, is permeating par pure throughout everywhere. There are people who have realized this. There are people who feel this. Pere rav rahya par pure vek hajure. And do they only feel this for a small amount of time, we may ask? That's the next question. Pere rav rahya par pure. Those people who can feel that their husband, Lord, is permeating everywhere. Vek hajure. Whenever they look, they see Akal Purkh like Bhai Kanhaiya Ji. Does that only last for a few seconds or a few hours or a few days? Maharaj says, Jog Jog. Throughout all of the times, Eko Jata, they realize just one. Now Maharaji says, let me tell you what they are like. Tan Bali Poli. Per Sahaj Rava, Milya Karam Vedata. That young innocent bride is Poli. Poli means innocent. It is the innocence of that young bride which allows her to rava, to enjoy the love of her husband sahaj, intuitively. It is that innocence which brings her close, milya karam vidata, and which brings her to meet the architect of destiny. Karam vidata, architect of destiny, the one who makes destiny, Akal Purkh Vaheguru. Jin har ras chakhya sabad supakhya, the one who has chakhya, has tasted the ras, the essence of Hari, of Vaheguru, sabad supakhya. They chant the Guru's words, har sar rahi par pure. And that blessed soul bride remains immersed in the sar, in the pool of God's love, Hari, har sar. Nanak kaman sa per ra pavai. That Kaman, that soul bride, Guru Amar Das Ji says, Pavai, pleases her husband. Sabde rahe hadure. And in the end we may say, well, that's all very well, but how do I get to that point? Maharaj Ji says, Sabde. Through the Guru's words, rahe hadure. That is how you will remain in the presence of God. God is ever present. You must remove the veil from your eyes. How will that happen? Through the Guru Shabad. Now at that point, after hearing all this, we say, but I falter at many points. The Nirguna Vantadi, she says, but I fall down all the time. What can I do? Guru Amar Das Ji now says, Sohagni jai pucho. Muye, oh beloved, go and pucho, go and ask those who are happily married to God. Jini vichoho aap, those who have lost themselves. And we say, why do you have to lose the sense of self? Pirka hukmana payo muye, oh beloved. You will not be able to payo, you will not be able to realize the hukam, the will of your pair, of your husband. Jini vichho aap na gwaya. Those people who have not lost the sense of I, they cannot live in tu, in you. Until you lose your sense of I, you will not be able to walk according to His will or the will of Akal Purkh. Jini aap gawaya, tini pir paya. Those who have lost that sense of self, they are the ones who have paya, who have found their husband Lord, their pir. Rang se or aliya mane, with love they enjoy Akal Purkh day and night. Sada rang rati, forever they are coloured in this love. Sahje mati, they are intoxicated in this gyan. Sahje, sahj, sometimes when it comes in Gurbani means gyan. Gyan is realization. An din naam vakhane. Day and night they chant the Naam. Kaman vadbhagi, such a soul bride is blessed, very fortunate. Antar live lagi, who within, inside, has that attachment, or let's say has that focus upon Akal Purkh, that live. Har ka prem subhaya. And that soul bride is blessed, who has fallen in love with God's love. Nanak kaman sahje rati, jin sach sigar banaya. That soul bride, Guru Amar Das Ji says, gets imbued in realization, in enlightenment, jin sach sigar banaya, who has taken the decoration of truth. What is the decoration of truth? Akal Purkh Ji's name. Haume mar muye, O beloved one, destroy, defeat your ego. Tu chal gur ke paaye. How do I do that? Walk upon the Guru's path. Har var raavhe sada muye, O beloved one. If you walk upon the Guru's path, what will you get? The husband Lord. You will enjoy his presence always. Sada. Nij kar vasa paaye, and you will find a place of rest within your true inner home, your inner dwelling. That comes from following the Guru's hukam, from following the Guru's commands. Nij kar vasa paaye, you will find a place of rest in your inner home. Sabad vajaye, when you start chanting the Shabad, the words of the Guru, Sada sohagan nari, you will never ever be without your husband Lord again. You will always be happily married as Sohagan. And this Nijkar isn't on a seventh heaven, it is within you, it is what you really are. Nijkar is the palace of realization within. Pirar Ali Allah, when you go into that Nijkar, who do you find? Pirar Ali Allah. Your playful husband Lord, Joban Balla, who is forever youthful. An din kant savari. When you enter into that Nijkar, when you enter into yourself, what you really are, Andin kant savari, day and night you are savari, you are embellished, you are decorated by your husband Lord. Har var sohago mastak pago, those who have such fortune written upon their forehead, they are the ones who find this har var, the husband Lord sohago, who is forever the husband Lord. Such as sabd sohaye, they are decorated with the true Shabad, with the eternal Shabad. Nanak kaman harang rati, ja challa satgur paye. Ja, when you start challa, walking according to the paye, the will of the Guru, then you become, that day you will become rati, that day you will become imbued in the love of God. Satguru Sahib Ji Maharaj is encouraging us all, giving us the example of those who are coloured in God's love and urging us, walk upon the path of the Guru. Har var sohago mastak bhago, sacha sabd sohaye, Nanak kaman har rang rati, ja challe satgur paye. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.